Good morning. It's so good to see you guys. The sun is shining. It's going to be a great day. It's actually going to be a great week. I'm on vacation next week, and I'll tell you more about that. But today, we're going to talk about freedom in business and as a business owner. And yeah, so me being on vacation in Great Mexico next week is kind of all part of the topic, right? If you're here with us live, say hi. And please join the conversation. Uh, Make comments and ask questions, do the things. And if you're watching the replay, please let me know about that. It's always nice to know that you've been here, and of course I'll come back and say hi. And if you have any questions or comments, I'll totally come back and answer them. If you want the notes up to this conversation, where we're going to talk about freedom, and I'm going to talk to you about what's real about the idea of freedom as a business owner and what is totally myth, and then how to get from where you are to where you're going. Put the word notes down below, and I'll make sure that you get the comments, the notes. It takes about a week for them to be ready, but I'll send them right to you in Messenger. Okay, so let's get to it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the BS floating around there about the freedom lifestyle, right? There are so many people out there perpetuating this myth of a highfalutin lifestyle. They stand in front of their really expensive cars and their big mansions and I don't know, all the things, right? Like they're dripping with money. So for me, at least personally, that image is all about money and just about money. And I'm not going to address really whether it's true or not for those individuals that freedom is all about money, or if they have it or if they don't, or if they're lying or if they're telling the truth. I have no idea what's in their bank account. I have no idea what's in their balance sheet, what their numbers say, whether what their profit margin is. I don't know. But I am actually going to talk about that it's this image that they create this image. Hey, Jennifer. They create this image that having that kind of material wealth as a business owner is not only your right, but is easy. Like as if you could just snap your fingers and all of the sudden you'd, be living on a yacht with your hair flowing. Which is not true. It's just not true. And it's such a disservice, because then when, you or we go into business, we have this idea that we're going to be able to have that immediately. And right away, it slaps us in the face that just is not the way business feels. And it's not what business gives you, right? And certainly not when you're starting. So let's talk instead about what freedom really is, or actually is, what that idea of freedom really is. So personally, we'll get to personally in a second. In general, freedom is self-defined in the same way that success is self-defined. Like success does not have a label on it. There's not this thing floating around that says this is success, and that's a universal truth for everybody, for me and for you, right? That's just not true. I have a definition of what success is for me. You have a definition of what success is for you, and that's true for you, but it's not a universal truth. The same thing goes for freedom. What is freedom for me may not necessarily be how freedom feels for you, or what freedom would look like for you, right? So we want to make that clear. And here's the thing. Of course, freedom includes money, because, there's no getting around the fact that having money makes freedom possible, honestly. If you're constantly working, you're with your nose to the grindstone, that is not freedom to make a salary. That's just not. If you are So let's just get over this idea that money is somehow bad, or that you can have freedom without money. Although I'm going to come back to that, because there is, I've discovered that that's not 100% true. Okay, so there is you have to have enough money to pay for whatever expenses that you've got. That is 100% true. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about my definition of freedom. Just so that you know, freedom is my highest core value. So one of the things that I do with my clients is we do a values workshop. And the whole point of the values workshop is to uncover our top 5 to 8 core values and then define them. And this really helps as a human, but it helps in terms of being a business owner, because it gives you a truing mechanism for lots of things, right? So I know that freedom is my highest value. It has been my highest value most of my life. And for me, my definition of freedom is the freedom to work or to be where I want, when I want, spend time with whom I want, whenever I want, right? And to be who I am, whoever that is at any one particular moment, because who I am has shifted, right? Like how I express myself as who I am. So for some people, and maybe this is true for you, I don't know, freedom may be the freedom to have a really big house and in a really specific place, or freedom might be to be able to express yourself in having a very particular style of car, or it might be being able to for some people, freedom might be being able to be home with their kids, right? So hi. So all of those things are valid as freedom, as long as they're your definition of freedom. Okay. The thing to remember is that no matter what the material expression of your freedom is, the material thing itself is not the core of what creates freedom. Freedom lives here, like here in you. It's a decision. Yes, freedom, exactly, Jana. Freedom is precious, and freedom is defined by you. It's not a tangible thing. There may be tangible things that are an expression of your freedom, but that's not freedom, right? It's an expression of freedom. Those are two separate things. Okay, so here's the place where I realized that freedom doesn't mean that you have to have a lot of money. I mean, I don't know if you know me at all. We own a van, right? We own a Sprinter van that we self-converted. I'm going to be really honest here. I did not do hardly anything. My husband and some of our friends and people that we paid to help us converted our Sprinter into a camper van. But now we get to go for a month to 6 weeks every year and just live out of this van, going wherever we want. That you're allowed to have a van with our 2 dogs. But what that really brought to mind is that there are many people way younger than me who make the choice to opt out of what most of us would call the accepted normal way of doing things, and decide to move into a van, and so that they can have the freedom to travel. They can work from anywhere, so they become remote. They disconnect themselves except for having an internet connection, and to live that kind of lifestyle, you don't necessarily need a lot of money, but you definitely need money. You need money for gas. You need money for food. You need an internet connection. So you may not be paying rent, but you still need money to live. So that kind of freedom, while it doesn't have a huge price tag, definitely still has a price tag. Okay. So while freedom comes from here, the expression of freedom definitely includes having money to pay for it. So I want to know what your definition is. So let me know. For you, what does being free mean for you? What will it allow you to do? And what are you looking to be free for? Right? One of the stories that I really love to tell people is, so I just turned 62, and if you guys have been here before, you know that my birthday was last week. So 62. At the age of 27, I was living in New York, and I had a different job every year from the time that I graduated from college. I worked on Wall Street. I worked as a casting director. I waited tables, right? So lots of different jobs. And when I was 27, I made a promise to myself that I was never going to work for anybody else, because freedom was that important to me. But what was really also really clear is that I'm unemployable. I'm just unemployable. And that might be true for you too. I've talked to a lot of business owners who say the same exact thing. I don't like being told what to do. That's really constricting for me. I want to be able to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, with whom I want to do it, right? That's my definition of freedom. And having a job and having a boss where I have to show up at a specific time and do a specific thing that other people are telling me to do is the complete opposite of my definition of freedom. So what is your definition? Tell me below. I'm really curious. I love to hear all about what people think. So let's, Jennifer. Yes, I am the queen. That's true. Although Alan calls me the spicy princess, and there's a story behind that one too. Okay, so let's talk about the path to freedom. Oh, here, Jana says, freedom is having time for myself and the people I love, being able to go places, and never having to trade my entire life for just work. There you go. That's a great definition of freedom. It's awesome. And it's inspiring. I think that's part of it too, is that the idea, whatever it is that your definition of freedom is, it inspires you to go for it. Okay, so let's talk about the path to freedom as a business owner. A lot, those images that we see of people equating material expressions of freedom kind of as a marketing tool to lure you into this idea that you can have it too, never really talk about the fact that freedom is only possible at certain stages of business. Once you've reached certain stages of business, there is no overnight success. But here is what does happen. Sometimes, somebody comes to the fore, they've created this new thing, or I always like to tell this story about Molly Mahoney, who, hey Molly, if you're around, I'll tag you in this so that you can hear this. So Molly Mahoney, who is now really well known as the expert in live video and Facebook and social media marketing, right? She's known for that. And in fact, is the one who has got me to be here live with you all. When I first met her, she was a vocal coach. She was my client. And, oh shit, I hate being 60 and not being able to remember where I was going, because it's a really good story. Fuck me. Okay, we'll get back to that. Yeah, this is kind of how I talk. Now I'm embarrassed. But okay, so the path to freedom. Oh yeah, right. So here's what I was going to say. So at the time that I first met her, not a lot of people knew her, right? But a lot of people know her now, but not a lot of people knew her. And if you met Molly now and you never knew who she was, it could look like that at the time that she produced her course and started becoming a sensation, that it could have looked like she was an overnight success. Now, she comes from the performance industry, and she'll be the first to tell you there is no such thing as overnight success, because of all the time that came before she was visible right? To you or to her audience. There's all the things that most people never got to see about the journey to success. And that's true for all of us, right? We don't just pop out as successful. We don't just pop out with freedom. It may be that people come into our circle and see us right at the moment when we're, we've I hate to say made it, but we've made it, or, we're public, right? Where it looks like success. People can come right at that junction, but they've never seen all the work that went into it. And there is no such thing as overnight success in business, ever. There's always the groundwork. There's always the beginning. There's always the back. Look as I spit. Oh my God. There's always the stuff you can't see, right? Okay, so let's talk about the actual stages of business and where freedom can even show up. So the first phase of business is startup. Like, you have an idea or you decide to start your business and you go for it. And in this first stage of business, there are so many things that have to be put into place. And the main, I want to say the main purpose, but the main driving part of startup is to really to be able to get to a point where you have a viable product or service that you're selling and that you have clients that are coming. Like, your business is not only viable, but is consistently making money. So startup to this point of viability. And in that space is a ton of work, because you have to figure out, what are you really offering? Is it working? What problem are you solving? Do people actually have that problem? Are they coming to buy your solution because it's really solving their problem? Like, all of that is it. And in answering those questions and getting to a point where you have a viable offer or product that you're selling that is viable because people are buying it consistently, there's a lot of work that goes into that. There's a lot of I always think of startup phases, you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, and seeing what sticks on a consistent basis, and using that data to hone in even more on the things that are working and what aren't working. Okay, so that's really the startup phase, and it really includes, like, that's when you're putting your nose to the grindstone. Like, there's no getting around that. There's just a lot of work to be done during that stage. And then when you have a viable business and you have consistent sales and a consistent people coming to buy, and let me say that by consistent, I'm not saying that you're making a sale every single day, but I am saying that you can point to, yes, people are buying, and actually have data to prove that. Okay. So then comes this place where it all seems to be working, but there are now so many pieces. And as the business owner, you may have hired some people to help you with the pieces, but you are still trying to control all the things. You're still in that phase in your behavior where you haven't transitioned from pushing and driving and the startup and controlling it all, to being the overseer, to being the container is usually how I put it, where you're the container and all of this stuff is happening, and you've got a much more wide-eyed view of what is occurring. If you're hearing that noise, the printer in the house is in my office, and my husband likes paper. He knows I'm live, but he decided to print something. So I apologize for that noise. Okay. Okay. So at this place between the end of startup and what's possible on the other side is this constricting place where you don't have much capacity. You're at the edges of capacity, both as a business that delivers whatever the result is to your clients and as a business owner, right? Like you're just right at the edge of what you can handle. And then you become the bottleneck. So I call that spot right there is between what was the startup phase and what is the momentum phase. These are words, I made them up, but that's how I think about it. Okay. So oftentimes my clients, when they come to me, they're right at that bottleneck. They have to recognize that the only thing to do to allow their business to grow, to create capacity, to be able to deliver more, and to unlock freedom is to getting themselves out of that bottleneck position, but they don't know how. And so really the key here, because a lot of people stay there, it's frightening. It's frightening to take the next step. It's like any other experience that you have where you're really good at something, but then to get to be better at it, or to widen what you can do, you have to go back into learner's mode. You have to be willing to, I'm just right now in my head, I'm thinking about the Olympics, right? And the people who are doing those crazy ski moves or snowboarding moves, right? They get really comfortable with a trick, but then they want to learn a new one. They have to be willing to fall. They actually have to be willing to hurt themselves. And it's scary. And I know that there are people that in their sport who they leave behind because there are people who get to that point but can never quite get themselves to throw themselves off the mountain that much higher, or to try to, make that extra little turn. And it's the same thing with business ownership. Like, people get to this place and they just are not willing to take that leap. And so they stay there. But the key to unlocking freedom is deciding that the goal of freedom, that the goal of getting to momentum, the goal of it is more important than the comfort of discomfort. So when I say it that way, right? Yes, you're really uncomfortable. And it's so, it can be really jarring to think of, I'm choosing to, even though how much I hate this discomfort, I'm going to choose to stay here. But that's exactly what happens, right? Without the commitment to go for freedom, pretty much what you're saying is, I'm comfortable with this discomfort. Because I'm not willing to face the fear of the unknown, of going to the next place, of letting go of the control, which is usually one of the biggest issues, the control I have over every single little piece of my business. Okay. So that key is to make the decision that freedom is more important than the comfort of discomfort. You have to decide that you're done with the overwhelm, that you're done with being the bottleneck, that even though what you're comfortable with is being in full control of every single piece of your business, that you are willing, and not only willing, but committed to doing things in a way that you have never done them before, learning a new way, letting go of what you thought was the only way of doing it in order to get to the other side. And because it's only on the other side of that freedom is possible. Okay? Because real freedom as a business owner means getting yourself out of daily operations enough that you can also live your life, right? It's about, at the beginning, I always think of it, you and your business are the same. You're attached. You are your business is you. Freedom only exists in this when you create the space between who you are and your business. There has to be space there so that you can have a life in which you are a business owner, but you are so much more than a business owner. When you are your business, when you're attached to your business like this, there's no possibility for you to be anything else but that business owner, because it is who you are. So we want you to be you, and that you have a business, not that you are a business. I never know if any of this makes sense. If I'm making sense, could you just let me know that you are following along? Okay, so how do you get there? So once you've made the decision, then you have to have an action plan. And the action plan to get to the freedom that is available as a business owner actually is the structure or the infrastructure that you have to put in place. This is such a what's the word? Conflicting idea, because freedom feels for most people, and maybe it feels like this for you, that to not have any structure, to not have to be anywhere, to not have to do anything in a particular way, to have no constraint. But the truth is that their freedom is not possible without structure. Without structure, freedom is chaos. And that's someplace that we often get mixed up, right? Like we don't really understand that in order to be able to have freedom from our business or freedom inside our business, there has to be some structure there. And so the action plan is about creating structure. So what is structure? Well, structure includes standard operating procedures. So things have to be standardized. There has to be a team and communication, and everybody on the team has to be really good at what they do, and you have to trust them to do the thing that they're really good at, right? And there has to be a common, everybody working towards the same common goal, or the same, yes, right, exactly. You have to have a schedule, right? For a personal productivity schedule. Here's the thing about freedom as a business owner. When you own a business, no matter how much you can get out of the daily operations, you will never get completely out of daily operations. Having freedom does not mean that you stop working. You still have to work. You become the face of your business. You become the glue that holds your business together. You become the inspiration, the visionary, the reason that your team works so hard is because you've created this atmosphere or this culture that gives them that motivation. But that will go away without you or a leader. That's really your job, is to be a leader. And as a leader, that doesn't mean you don't work, right? You're still going to have to work. You just don't have to work. It's likely that you just don't work 40 hours a week, right? Maybe you're working 20 hours a week, but you're really focused on what has to get done during those 20 hours. You're really focused on your zone of genius and what things at your business is really important for you to do and to lead your team. A lot of your time as a business owner with freedom, a lot of your time will be taken up by leadership, by team, being with your team. Okay. God, sometimes, I just hope I'm making sense. Okay. So what we've talked about in terms of structure is really the doing, the things you have to do, the things you have to put in place, the practices and the protocols and the systems that have to be created and then lived in order to have freedom. But that doingness, I always talk about that as like the nuts and bolts of business. Yes, of course, those have to be done. Your business will not make it if the actions aren't put into place. But even more important than the actions is expanding your brain, expanding your ability as a human to manage the container as it grows. So what am I talking about? So some people call this mindset. I have really come to hate that word because mindset to me makes us think that it's just like has to be a way of looking at the world, like we're putting on a pair of rose-colored glasses, or right. And while having a good attitude is really important to grow that ability to have a good attitude and to see the be a positivity, to be able to see the positive in most things, that is not really what I'm talking about when I talk about expanding your brain. So your freedom relies on the fact that your container, that your operating system can actually hold the idea that you can be free. Your way of interpreting, okay, let's just go back for just a sec into the core of this, which is where I start when I'm working with people, is, we are born into having an operating system as humans. Each of us is born into a way of interpreting how the world works. And when we're first born, that interpretation method or code is written into our DNA, and it comes from our specific line of ancestors, plus our culture that we come from, plus the society that we come from. Like oftentimes for Americans, we have coded in our DNA this idea that you have to work hard or you have to sacrifice in order to succeed. And that comes from this puritanical way of thinking that originated with the people who the colonizers, right? They came with their puritanical ideals, and those ideals actually became coded into the DNA. And this is, there's a word for that. This is really awful. Like I hate not being able to remember. It's at the top of my tongue. But anyway, so we're born into that already way of interpreting the world, right? Then for the first 7 years of our life, we are absorbing the ways of interpreting the world, the belief systems of the people that we spend the most time with. Well, that's our family. And we're just absorbing it. If we're experiencing if we have traumatic experiences during those first 7 to 9 years, if we have exceptionally amazing experiences, we also are unconsciously making decisions ourselves about how the world works from those experiences. But in general, if we talk about people, just all people, so that, you're absorbing those beliefs from your family. So now you're operating, and it's all unconscious, right? So the stuff that's written into your DNA, plus what you're absorbing from those around you, is unconscious. You can't give it language because it doesn't live like a thing that you can talk about. It just is who you are. That's why I call it your operating system. The computer can't see its own operating system, and neither can we. And then after you're 7 and on into the rest of your life, we experience all sorts of things that we then make decisions about, and that have accompanying strong emotions about, and those get coded into our unconscious as well. So we, as a way of describing this, we talk about our belief system. But what it really is a way of decoding or interpreting what is happening to us in the world. So I had a client just recently say that her mom used to always say things to her like, uh, why do you think you deserve this? Why do you don't deserve this? Or the statement was, you get what you deserve. I love that statement. So I used to always say to her, you get what you deserve. You get what you deserve. And it was always said with this negative connotation. And so she took that to heart. You get what you deserve. You get what you deserve. Now she owns a business that she is very, very successful. And in the past 6 months, or not even 3 months, has been manifesting, like the most amazing things have been happening in her life and in her business. She'll think something and it will happen. And the voice she still hears in her head is, you get what you deserve. Only it's still in that negative voice in her head, right? And so I said to her, well, what if you did get what you deserve, but what you got, but you deserve all the good things. So of course you get what you deserve. Like, you deserve everything. And all of a sudden, it shifted the way she interpreted the world. Like, it was that, she was like, whoa. Right? Whoa. So when I talk about shifting the way that you're expanding your brain and shifting your operating system, I'm not talking about mindset. I'm really talking about the fundamental ways that your body and your brain and nervous system are coded. Like, that's pretty intense. It's not that hard to do. It's simple, but it's hard to do it for yourself, because she could never hear anything, that statement, you get what you deserve, in anything other than a negative tone of voice, until I said to her, well, that's an amazing statement. You get what you deserve. Of course you do. You deserve everything. Right? And all of a sudden, whoosh. Okay. So when I talk about expanding your brain, this is what I'm talking about. To go from, you have to always suffer. You have to have your nose on the grindstone. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is a big one. That was one for me. I was always waiting for the next shoe to drop. Like, things could be really good, and in the back of my mind, I would be saying to myself, when's it going to stop? And that way of interpreting things just had me living on a roller coaster, constant roller coaster, because the way that your brain works and your reticular activating system works, it's going to bring you things to provide evidence for what you already believe. So because I believed that there was always going to be another shoe that dropped, what do you know? There was always a shoe that dropped. There was always something that went wrong when things were going good. Like, I could only have it be so good. And then it would fall apart, because that's how your brain works. These are why I never have done real lives before, because it's so deep. Like, this stuff is so deep. These are the things that Molly will yell at me, like, stay on the surface, but I just can't. That's just not how I am. Okay, so how do you do this for yourself as much as you can? Let's call it a mindset practice, simply because that's language that people understand. But if you have a practice of being aware of yourself and your reactions. So what are you looking for? You're looking for, or noticing, when you are having a breakdown. And by breakdown, I don't mean like mental breakdown, but like a challenge, or you seem to be taking 2 steps back for every step forward that you take. Like, something is keeping you stuck, right? So you want to notice that. Okay. And thanks, Lisa. I so appreciate that. So you want to notice when you're stuck. That's the first thing. Staying aware of how as much as you can, of what's happening to you in the world, not just living your life, but watching yourself a little bit and noticing when you're stuck. Journaling, I talk so much about how I hate journaling. Like, I really, I still don't like it. I still don't like it. But here's the truth. The times that I journal every day, and I'm going to tell you, I still don't journal every day. I go in spurts and starts, right? But the times when you journal every day, you start to see the ways that your mind works, because you're taking them from your unconscious and making them conscious on the piece of paper over and over and over again. And all of a sudden you're like, why do I keep writing? You only get what you deserve. Like, huh? Is there something in there? Okay, so journaling is great. I have this practice that I give to my clients that is kind of like a reticular activating system practice, where once we figure out like what it is or how it is that you're reacting, we're looking for evidence for the opposite. So for my client for whom you only get what you deserve was always a negative thing, the practice for her is to every day to notice that what she got was actually what she deserved. Like, she deserves things, good things, right? So, and to make note of it, conscious note of it, because what that does is that as you point that out to your brain, oh, look, I got this and I deserve that. And this happened and I deserve that. Isn't that awesome? Every time she says that to herself out loud. So part of the practice is telling her husband, and you could tell a friend, you can tell a roommate every day. Your reticular activating system starts to look for those things because it knows that you are. And so it's providing evidence for this new way of thinking. Okay. And another really great practice is to keep asking yourself, is it true? Is this a universal truth? What this belief that I have that it has to be this way, or that it is this way? When you have a thought process or an explanation for something, which it automatically comes at the end of that with, of course, you only get what you deserve. Well, of course, right, is what it was, what in that negative tone, or you have to sacrifice before you can experience success, of course. So whenever there's an of course at the end of a thought, I'm going to challenge you to actually stop for a second and ask yourself, well, is this actually true with a capital T, or is it only true for me? And here's how you know. Things are only a universal truth. So truth was a capital T is if it is true for every single person on the planet. Okay? So if it was true, like with a capital T, that you had to sacrifice or work really, really hard before you could see success, you wouldn't look around you and see people who were born with a silver spoon in their mouth and just had money and experienced an amazing life from the very beginning. That's not true. There are people who don't sacrifice and they experience a lot of money, right? Or they experience freedom. So if you have this belief and you think it's true, just know that it's just true for you. And if it's only true for you and not true for everybody, if it's only true for you and not a universal truth, it's changeable. It's changeable because it's not written in stone. It's not like gravity. Does that make sense? Okay. So start having a practice where you're doing things specifically to bring to your awareness the things that are keeping you stuck. Because on the other end of stuck is freedom. Okay, so the last piece of actually getting from stuck to freedom actually includes having somebody else in your corner, being accountable to somebody else, or giving somebody else permission to call you on the things that you believe that aren't happening, that aren't true, right? So the things that you believe that aren't true, so that you can see another way of doing things, which, like my client could not see that there was another way of interpreting the statement, you get what you deserve. right? So having somebody else in your corner who is not just looking at the things that you believe, but also can point out to you, these are the things, these are the next things there are to do, and to hold you to account to do the things that need to be done so that getting past the bottleneck, creating the systems, getting your business to a point where you can actually be the leader instead of the doer, holding you account to that. And honestly, I'm just going to tell you that the answer to that is hiring a coach or a business consultant or somebody who will walk beside you to help you do that. Of course, I always start coughing at this part. So, I just really want to remind you again that getting to freedom, having freedom does not mean never working. So, for instance, I'm going to Mexico on Saturday for a week. I am really on vacation. What does that mean? That means that while my clients have total access to me, that unless their business is burning, there is no texting me while I'm on vacation. My team is all very clear about what they're doing while I'm gone, and they don't act unless, again, my business is on fire. There's no reason to reach out to me because everything is all in place for them to take care of. But I am still holding the container. Even if I'm on vacation, I really am still holding the container. In the end, the buck still stops with me. So if my business is on fire, they will call me before it actually goes up in flames, right? Because I am holding the container, but I am on vacation. Yeah, and that's true for you too. I see some of my clients have been here on this conversation and have been commenting, Lisa and Jennifer, and both of them have been on vacation. And the rules are when you're on vacation, your job is to be on vacation. And yet they are still holding the container of their business while they are going out and having the multifaceted life that they want, right? So don't confuse or conflagrate freedom with not doing anything or not being anything. Maybe not doing anything, but not being anything. Do you know what I mean? Okay. So I just want to reiterate the things that we've talked about, or the things that I've talked about, because I've been doing all the talking here, kind of. Okay, so there's a lot of BS floating around out there about freedom and the freedom lifestyle. Don't buy into that. Really define freedom for yourself. The path to freedom as a business owner includes the phase of startup and throwing spaghetti at the wall. And during that phase, there is no freedom possible. Freedom is only possible on the other side of where you get to the place where you have a viable business and you are the bottleneck to your business growing. It's funny, I just thought at this moment that freedom for you also means freedom or expansion for your business, okay? So just know that you may not be at a point in your business yet where freedom is even possible, but that doesn't mean that freedom won't be possible. It's just not, there's still some work to do to get to that place, okay? The key to unlocking freedom when you get to that point where you are the bottleneck and you're still trying to keep control of everything is to decide that freedom, experiencing freedom, is more important than being comfortable in your discomfort. Then you need to have an action plan in order to put into place the structure that needs to be there in order to create the ability for you to have some freedom, right? Because you need structure or else you have chaos. So that's an action plan of standard operating procedures, systems, schedules, protocols, right? And to concurrently have a practice to keep your brain expanding your ability to hold a bigger container, to have a practice to get past the places where your brain itself and the interpretation of the world is keeping you bottlenecked. Okay. And then the last piece is accountability, and to have outside eyes, and to have a coach. Or if not a coach, somebody who is walking beside you, whose I'm going to say job it is, but not even job it is, who you've infused with the power to call you out when your interpretation of the world, the way that you think is true, the truths that you believe are true, that you believe are actually the way the universe works, to call out to you and say, yeah, no. This is what you believe, but it's not true. Here's some other possibilities of the way to deal with this, and to hold you accountable to putting in that structure. Okay. So if you are watching this and you are past your startup phase, so you know you have a viable business, you can see that at this moment that you are the bottleneck to your own growth and to your business's growth. You have decided that experiencing freedom is more important than the comfort of your discomfort. Comment and let me know. Send me a message. I have 4 openings in Catapult for over Q2. It's a one-on-one 9-month immersion program. And this is exactly what I help people do, is get from being the bottleneck to have experiencing freedom. And then the next stage, which is getting your business ready to sell, if that's what you're going to do. So I hope this was great for you. I hope you got a lot to it. Don't forget to comment below if you want to talk to me about Catapult, if you want the notes for this particular live, if you just want to say hi, if you just want to tell me how beautiful my eyes are. And have a great week. There's not going to be a live next week because I am going to be sitting on a beach in Mexico with one of my best friends who I haven't seen since the beginning of the pandemic, or since the pandemic started. I may or may not go live from Mexico to say hello, but we are not working. Okay? Mwah. I love you guys. I will see you in a couple weeks. Bye.